Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to the Script to Screen podcast. Very happy to have you here. Now, this week, hot off the heels of listing our top 5 favorite horror movies, this week we thought we'd take a look at our top 5 favorite gateway horrors, Lee. Now,
Nice.
remember, this is obviously just a list of our favorite gateway horror films. But if you do, think there's anything that we missed off the list that we really need to be aware of, obviously do drop us a line, let us know. But yeah, just to preface this episode, it is our favorite top 5 gateway horrors. Now, gateway horrors is probably something that needs a little bit of explanation, maybe to some people out there. I'm sure most of you know what it is already, but we prepared a little sort of primer just to get you in the groove of what we mean by a gateway horror. Now, gateway horrors are a subgenre of films usually aimed at younger audiences, which serve as an introduction to the horror genre. Now, these films often include scary elements without stepping over boundaries of suitability in terms of graphic content. This could be with respect to gore or bloodletting, sexuality or theme, things like that. Now, gateway horrors often feature child protagonistly and explore the theme of fear of the unknown, often have narratives in which protagonists have to face and overcome some form of primal fear. This generally will come in the form of something like ghosts or monsters or encounters with deranged or evil adults. But this is done in a way which emphasizes fun and comedy and usually delivers a hopeful message. So, again, we're going to list our top 5 gateway horrors. And I think I did the honors last week, Lee, with our start. So I think you should go first this week. And this is no particular order, is it, Lee? So we're not running down any particular
Yep, no,
order
no
here.
particular order. Definitely no particular order for this one.
Yeah, but let's kick
Okay.
things off. I mean, what was first on your list, dude?
Well, first one I'm going to go with, and I'm going to get it out of the way because I spoke about it again last week. So I'm kind of double dipping here, but it is The Lost Boys, and
Yeah.
I can't just not put it on this list because it was my gateway horror movie, like
This is
as
the
well
one
as
that
like one
gatewayed
of
you
my
in.
it gatewayed me in. It kind of like sucked me through the door and like bolted and chained it behind me because once I was in, there was no going back. So Lost Boys again was released October 23rd, 1987. On a budget of about 8.5 mil, and brought in about 32.5 million at the box office. Directed by Joel Schumacher, written by Jan Fisher, James Jeremias, Jeffrey Boehm, and obviously starring a great cast: Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Diane West, Bernard Hughes, Edward Herrmann, Kiefer Sutherland, and so on and so on. I could list everyone off. They're all great. But I think what makes Lost Boys a really good horror movie is the whole kids versus monsters kind of aspect.
Yeah.
It deals with some very scary subject matter. I mean, the vampires, yes, they're cool and everyone kind of wants to be them a little bit because they're just so badass, but they're also pretty terrifying in places. And the fact that you have like young teenagers standing up to these like terrifying predators is kind of empowering. I found it very empowering when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, man, we can do this. We can take out vampires and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I've spoke before about how this film kind of and the Monster Squad kind of encouraged me to kit myself out in like monster hunting gear and explore the local woods and ruins and terrify myself to death with my friends. But yeah, I think this is a great gateway horror. Great gateway horror. It's kind of at the kind of peak, like if you have like sort of like kid friendly at the bottom and sort of like scary horror at the top. This is definitely nearer the top than it is to the kid friendly part. So if you're thinking of bringing your kids into horror, definitely give this one a watch first because some sensitive kids will definitely find this pretty damn terrifying. But yeah, I mean, this is such a great film. I mean, I could talk about this film all day. It has a real sort of a real place in my heart, this movie. And I mean, I've never spoken to anyone who hasn't enjoyed this film. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, my first film is Lost Boys. No big
Nice, dude.
surprise there.
That's a great pick. I mean, this is a stone cold classic, this one, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, I think there's of a certain sort of generation. I think everyone comes to this film, probably in their kind of early to mid-teens. and it's just cool as hell, isn't it? And I think you're right.
Absolutely,
Like
man.
the kids kind of teaming up and going against the monsters and sort of overcoming these sort of terrifying vampires and almost kind of solving the case of all these murders in their sort of local town. It's just an awesome, fun kind of romp, isn't it? Really colorful.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you're right, dude. There's like lots of scares in there, and there's lots of kind
Mm,
of, the vampires are pretty scary, right? I mean, it's
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not light on kind of scares. They sort of look the part. They look great. But I think it's like with sort of a lot of these gateway horrors, there's a real sort of family message going on in there
Yeah.
as well. The sort of family comes back together, and the sort of the family kind of unit and love kind of triumphs really.
Mm,
And that's love between family, love between friends, and that sort of thing.
yeah.
So, yeah, man, awesome, awesome pick.
Yeah, I mean the whole film is very much like it is a very family centered film. Even the vampires have a very dysfunctional, but they have a family dynamic.
Yeah,
I mean they're basically like four brothers and they're rebelling against their dad, and
yeah,
whereas
yeah, yeah.
with the on the human side it's obviously like um
Sort of a more matriarchal kind of.
yeah, because obviously the boys are sort of like recently sort of like without their father, and their mother's trying to sort of do the best they can. They're kind of rebelling against any sort of like potential father figure, and and Sam is just being Sam. Sam
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Michael is just moody and just trying to find
yeah,
himself,
broody and
and
moody.
it is like just like two warring sort of family dynamics kind of playing off against each other in the end. You've got like the patriarchal family coming up against like it's almost like the matriarchal family, and the two kind of there's a point where they could go either way. They could like come together into one family, or they can like resist the pull and sort of fight against each other to the end. So it's interesting to kind of think how different that film could have been if
Mm.
the two families had kind of successfully kind of merged together. What kind of sequel that would have given us?
Yeah, it would have given us something interesting. And there is sort of
Mm.
a kind of subplot where that's the kind of aim, isn't there? If I remember correctly,
Mm.
he is trying to sort of bring, Diane Weist's character into the
Yes.
mix and sort of, copulate in
Yeah.
some way or bring those two families together, right?
Yeah, yeah. So he's basically, he thinks that the boys need a mother to sort of control them, and obviously he
Yeah.
thinks like Sam and Michael need a father, and in his mind, I think he thinks it's just like the perfect solution. Just
Yeah.
solve all their problems in one go. Just happens to turn you into bloodthirsty demons while he's doing it.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it's a little side effect, but let's not let's
yeah,
hung up on those, right?
there's good positives and negatives to the arrangement.
That's
I
right.
can't say
That's
which
right.
side I'd have gone down, to be fair, but
That's right. Yeah, absolute banger, dude. I mean, I think, like I say, I think of a certain generation. I don't know how people, sort of younger than us, kind of would come to this film now, or would maybe see this film now. But yeah, it's definitely something that's worth getting your sort of kids maybe to watch if they're of a certain
Mm,
sensibility and a certain age. And I
yeah,
think it's one of those movies that can really turn people on to sort of the horror genre and make them more interested in
yeah.
in this sort of thing, right?
I mean, I have like showed this film to all
No
of my
doubt,
kids,
no
all,
doubt.
all five of them, and they all love it.
Yeah,
So I don't know if they're just saying that to keep me happy. I don't think so. I think they do genuinely love it because it's such a great film, and it's a fun film.
yeah,
You don't get so many like really just straight up enjoyable romps anymore. Not like this, and it's just a blast. And
yeah, yeah.
second best movie soundtrack of all time as well.
It is a cracker, absolute
Mm,
cracker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Decent pick, dude. Great start. Great place to start, I think. And it's a really good example, like we say, of this kind of idea of gateway horrors, bringing
yeah.
younger people into the genre and sort of exposing them to some of the tropes of the genre. I think that's a really cool pick. Okay, well, moving on. So my first pick, Lee, I'm not sure. I don't know if this is something that you've seen, but this is a Tim Burton film. It's called
Hmm.
Frankenweenie.
Okay, I haven't actually seen this one. I
Okay, well,
know my daughter has seen it, so I remember her
okay, yeah,
talking about it.
yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, I have not seen this one. So,
I mean, I absolutely love Frankenweenie. I mean, I first actually, funnily enough, saw the short film. This is back in the day when I was kind of getting into films and sort of starting to explore directors' work. And I saw Tim Burton's short Frankenweenie, which is starring Shelley Duvall.
hmm,
And this is a sort of a live action short. And it's kind of it's just wonderful. I mean, it's really beautiful. You know, if you it's great to sort of go and have a look, and it's obviously a similar sort of thing. But
Mm.
Frankenweenie, the one I'm talking about, is actually an animated film.
Yeah.
Now, this was released, well, it's sort of a stop motion. So this was released 17th of October 2012. Budget was around about 39 million. Box office take was 86 million, so it did pretty well. Runtime about an hour and a half. Obviously, director, as we said, Tim Burton. The writers on this are Leonard Rips, Tim Burton, and John August.
Oh, that's a
And the
name I know.
cast, yeah, cast is Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, and Martin Landau. So there's, I mean, there's a lot of Tim Burton sort
Mm.
of players in there, you know, that sort of appear in lots of his films. Logline on this one, just to give you a bit of info, is when a boy's beloved dog passes away suddenly, he attempts to bring the animal back to life through a powerful science experiment. You can imagine what that science experiment is. So basically, this kind of plays out really as like a sort of a take on the Frankenstein film. You know,
Mm.
really heavily kind of influenced by those kind of 30s sort of horror films, you know, the classic, you know, sort of Frankenstein film. And it really kind of evokes that sort of 50s B movie sort of aesthetic, you know, that sort of
Yeah.
German expressionist kind of
Nice.
horror sort of a, you know, style. Have you ever seen Ed Wood? It's kind of very similar to sort of Ed Wood in terms of its kind of
Again, I haven't seen Edward.
right. Well, it's a great
I
movie, but
suck. Yeah.
it's very sort of similar in its kind of
Yeah.
aesthetic. It's kind of black and white photography. You know, it's deep shadows. It's kind of you know, kind of misty horror, kind of you know, lighting, and very sort of German expressionist.
Mm.
And it's really just it's a wonderful kind of love letter to kind of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And you know, it follows the sort of the main character whose dog gets hit by a car, and
Oh,
he's a bit of a sort of science nerd, and he sort of tries to bring this animal back to life, you know,
mm.
through the kind of, you know, lightning bolt kind of,
Yeah.
you know, stitches the dog back together and sort of brings him back to life. And it's just so much fun. I mean, first of all, it's kind of really, really beautiful.
Mm.
It's just wonderfully kind of shot, you know, as you'd imagine like a Tim Burton film would be,
Yeah.
right? And it's got that kind of Nightmare Before Christmas sort of vibe, you know, and The Corpse Bride, those sorts of that sort of stop motion sort of style, very kind of evocative of sort of Tim Burton's movies anyway, that sort of visual style. But the reason I sort of picked this one was because I thought, hey, I just love it, but it's got a
Mm.
lot of sort of horror tropes in there or stuff
Mm.
from the classic kind of horror movies that you can
Yeah.
imagine Tim Burton just absolutely loves, you
Mm.
know. Uses a lot of the sort of things from the Frankenstein film. You know, there's a sort of the townsfolk turn on the dog, you know, this dog called
Oh.
Sparky, and you know, they're sort of chasing with pitchforks at the end, and the dog's getting blamed for everything. And they end up at this windmill, which gets kind of set on fire, you know. So it's classic, like Frankenstein. You know, it's as I say, shot in black and white, and it's you know, it's full of these really kind of oddball, sort of Tim Burton-esque kind of characters, which look kind of slightly scary. The kids' kind of classmates, and many of the adults, you know, they're really kind of grotesque looking kind of people, and it just looks amazing. And there's,
Yeah.
you know, there's the kids have these animals which kind of, you know, they get changed through the same sort of experiment that the main character, the protagonist, sort of runs on Sparky, on his dog.
Mm.
But they turn into these sort of terrible, you know, sort of abominations, you know, of the previous kind of animals. So this girl
Yeah.
has a cat which kind of morphs into this kind of bat cat. You know, there's there's a sort of dude who has a little turtle which turns into a sort of a giant kind of Godzilla turtle, starts
Oh, right.
rampaging through the town.
Yeah.
Dude, what are those things that you used to be able to put in a glass and put water in? And it's like sea something. I can't remember what they're called, but they're
Oh, the sea
tiny little,
monkeys.
yeah, sea monkeys,
Sea
right? So
monkeys. Yeah.
there's this kid who has sea monkeys and he puts them in a pool and you know gets bolted with lightning and they turn into these little gremlins which bounce around and are running all over the town. Dude, it is so much fun.
Yeah. That sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool.
And you've got this kind of teacher who's sort of the science teacher who's kind of inspiring the protagonist, you know,
Mm.
to sort of do this experiment or whatever and turning him on to science. And he looks like Vincent Price, like he just looks like Vincent Price from a Hammer horror film. And he's kind of voiced by Martin Landau. you've got the whole kind of kids versus adults sort of
Mm.
thing going on. The town is kind of turning against, the pets and trying to control the kids, and the kids are kind of saving the day. So you've got that whole thing going on. But what I really love about this, I think, is there's a really great message, right? So
Mm.
this is part of that kind of gateway horror thing as well, where you're sort of giving, really sort of positive message for kids within this
Yeah.
kind of horror tropey sort of style. And there's this kind of awareness and sort of acceptance of mortality that runs through the film. But it's also about sort of doing things with love and with sort of the right intentions,
Yeah.
and doing things with intentionality and for the right reasons. And that's really sort of the core message of the film.
Mm.
But dude, so entertaining, just loads of fun, absolutely beautiful. If you like kind of Tim Burton style, artwork, which I really love
Yeah.
anyway, that whole sort of aesthetic, you're going to love this. And if you like those sort of those classic horror movies, which really sort of lean into that, like we say, sort of murky, kind of shadowy, black and white, German expressionist sort of
Yeah.
style visuals, this is a real treat. And it's really accessible, man. It's not kind
Yeah.
of particularly scary, but the
Mm.
tropes are there, right? Everything
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
genre's there, and it's a real good kind of intro to the genre. Yeah, so that's my
Nice.
that's my first pick, dude.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
You should watch it,
Okay.
Lee. You'll love it.
I will add it to my long list of things that I'll probably never watch, which
Oh,
gets longer than it ever gets shorter. I'll watch like one thing off the list, and then I'll add like six more. It's like a hydra, you know. You cut
you,
off one head and two more take its place, you know.
you will love it, Lee. If you actually take the time to
No,
sit
I
down and
don't
watch
doubt.
it,
I don't doubt I will, but
it's a
I
blast.
will. I will add it to. Well, when my I got a grandbaby coming next year, so once
Ah,
he gets a little bit older, maybe I'll start him off
yeah.
with Frank and Weenie rather than just like throwing him straight in with The Exorcist or something like
That'll
that.
probably be that'll probably be a better way to start him off, I think.
Probably, probably.
Possibly, maybe.
But while we're
Got to
talking
toughen
about
these kids
that
up,
old
though.
kind of Frankenstein-y Universal monster kind of appeal and jam, that kind of segues nicely into my next gateway mention, which is The Monster Squad.
Yeah,
Another favorite of mine. I know it's a favorite of yours as well.
absolutely.
Um, Quite possibly the ultimate gateway movie, gateway horror movie,
It's got to be,
um,
right?
for kids. I mean, it's just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I mean, you got a bunch of kids versus the Universal monsters: Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy, creature from the Gill Man. Sorry,
Yeah,
can't call
that's
him the
right.
creature from the back again. 'Cause, um,
Copyright reasons.
yeah, copyright. But oh, it's just so good. It's so good. And again, it's just a really great fun movie. So the gist of the story is that every 100 years or so, the planets align or some shtick so that Dracula can, if he gets his hands on this special amulet, he can cast a ritual which will swallow the world in darkness. It's also the only time where you can actually get rid of Dracula for good because, if good guys do this ritual, then they can open up a vortex that will send all the monsters away to this other dimension kind of MacGuffin. And obviously, the 100 years comes up, and Dracula's back, but of course, no one believes him. No one believes Dracula's back, except for a bunch of like monster-obsessed kids who who very quickly kind of suss things out. But no adults believe them, so it's down to the kids to take out Dracula and his minions. And Dracula is so good in this film. He's just amazing. He's played by a guy called Duncan Regehr, and it's my favorite all-time favorite rendition of Dracula that's ever been on screen. He's just so good. He's just swanning around in this like fairly cheap-looking, perfect Dracula costume with like the high collar and the coif and the medallion and like the red waistcoat and everything. And it shouldn't work, and he should just look ridiculous. But he's just so terrifyingly evil that he just steals every scene that he's in. And he's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, best cinematic Dracula ever, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you might, because we did an episode on this, didn't we, where we
We
really sort
did,
of took
yeah.
a deep dive in on the film and the script, and it's such a great script as well. If you get to have a read of this, I mean, it was Shane Black, wasn't it, and Fred Dekker, who I think, well, it's
Yes.
mainly, I mean, it's a big Shane Black kind of influence script,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it reads like a Shane Black script,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just so much fun. The scripts are so much fun and it translates perfectly onto the screen. So enjoyable. Has a
And I
few scary moments in it, but nothing
Well,
too bad.
as we mentioned in the episode, I think the real one was that kind of the the werewolf kind of guy when he's in that police station just
Hmm.
absolutely knocks it out of the park with
Yeah.
his performance there. It's a truly kind of tormented character. Really comes across. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a brilliant scene. We spoke about this before a few times in different films. I mean, there's just like a random scene where someone just absolutely just knocks it out the park in otherwise like a fairly comedic or a fairly light-hearted film. And then someone just throws out like a Oscar-nominated performance, like just halfway through and just absolutely steals the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Which
yeah.
is what the Wolfman guy does. But there's a few moments with Dracula that are pretty creepy, I think, and his
Mm.
brides as well.
Yeah, yeah,
They can
yeah,
be quite
yeah.
they can be quite scary.
And
But
the makeup effects in this, it was I mean the suits and whatnot is just fantastic. I mean the
oh yeah,
Gill-man, the werewolf, the sort of Frankenstein character, they all
yeah,
look absolutely stunning.
yeah. The Gillman especially was I think it was Steve Wang did
Yeah,
the I think I'm pretty sure it's Steve Wang did the Gillman suit under Stan Winston Studios, and yeah, he just knocks it out of the park into the stratosphere with that suit. It's so good. You could put someone on in a film wearing that suit today, and people would say, "Wow, that suit looks so good."
absolutely, dude.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
it's immortal. It just looks amazing, and it's a testament to the just the genius of practical effects and the enduring nature of practical effects. Like CG will, I mean, we'll come back to this in a week or two, like talking about CG and how it doesn't age well. What will look good one
Yeah.
week will be outdated like a year later and just look terrible. Whereas a good practical effect will always look amazing.
Yeah, yeah, a good
Take The
sort of
Thing, for
well-lit
example,
suit.
or Alien. Yeah.
Yeah, will just always look fantastic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And didn't they go on to do, weren't they involved in the Predator suit as well, somewhere
Stan
down?
Winston did do the Stan Winston Studios did do the Predator suit as well. I can't
Mm,
remember if it was Wang was part of that or not, but Stan Winston
yeah.
Studios definitely worked on the Predator suit.
But you're right, man. I mean, Duncan Regeer's just probably, I mean, he probably is the best Dracula ever, right? I mean,
I
there's
in
obviously,
my mind, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, maybe it just caught us at the right age, Lee, and we're just like fixed on that this is what Dracula should be. But he's just like,
Could be.
I think you said in the episode, he's just such a glorious bastard, isn't he?
He is. He's just magnificent.
Yeah,
Absolutely magnificent.
magnificent bastard. Yeah, absolutely fantastic, man. I mean, it's a great one because this is another one that I sort of saw, pretty young and, a bit like The Lost Boys, right? Just sort of turned me on to that whole kind of
Yeah.
world. And it gives you so much of, that, like I say, those universal horror sort of films gives you so much history that you're kind of subconsciously taking in. And
Yeah.
if you do take a deep dive on these films, you're thinking, oh, yeah, that's where obviously, from Monster Squad, this, that, and you make the
Mm.
connections. And it's just such a great sort of journey if you decide to go on that journey.
Yeah.
But really accessible movie, right? Funny,
Yeah. Yeah.
loads of sort of
Absolutely.
action. I mean, it's really accessible for young people as well.
It's a brilliant one for younger people. And like I said, and again, it's one of like two movies that pretty much like defined the path of my life.
Yeah.
Like this and Lost Boys were
Yeah.
like, my two like major influence movies.
And again, you've
And
got that kind of sort of family dynamic running through it with the club,
yeah.
um, and their sort of acceptance of the Frankenstein character, and
Hmm.
you've got that running through it as well, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Lost Boys and Monster Squad, I think. I think Lost Boys is probably a slightly more adult version of Monster Squad.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
start with Monster Squad and then kind of move up to the Lost Boys, perhaps.
yeah. You got that team
But
up vibe going on.
yeah, they're both just great films. That whole, like I say, like kids being empowered, and when you're a kid, you don't tend to feel like empowered very often.
Yeah,
So it's cool to kind of see these kids going out and like taking on the things that that scare you. Because when you're a kid, I don't know if it's the same nowadays. Nowadays, you're probably scared of like losing access to your TikTok account or something. But when I was a kid, I was terrified of like werewolves and vampires and all
mm,
that kind of stuff, like like full on like terrified. I had such an active imagination, and seeing these kids like just take on these monsters and win was just it was hugely empowering,
Yeah.
hugely empowering. And I think it's part of the reason why I sort of like switched from being scared of sort of horror movies and scared of everything that goes bump in the night to just kind of embracing it and just loving it. I think was pretty much a direct cause of those two films.
Nice, dude. I tell you, I think I want to see a picture of you, Lee, dressed up in your vampire hunting gear, just about to just about to head out into the night, up to that Napoleonic fort or whatever it was, taking on some ghosts. That's what I want to see.
I
Maybe
don't
one
even
day.
think that a photograph of that kind of thing exists. There was no cell phone cameras back in the day, so we had to have a spare camera with film lying around, which was which was a bit of a chore to get a hold of. But
Maybe one day you'll find one. We can
maybe
ask
one
we
day
can ask
I will
Mumsy.
I will keep an eye out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, the next one for me, Lee, is something that I think we've probably all seen, and it is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So this one, I'm sure most people have seen this one. Probably slightly an odd choice, maybe, but
That did cross my mind when I saw that was when we were thinking of. I was like, huh?
interesting. Well, let me break it down a little bit for you,
Oh
Lee.
no,
Maybe you'll
please
maybe
do.
you'll be interested. So I mean, the release date of this one was the 20th of August, 1971. The budget was around about $3 million. Box office, and I don't know how this is true, but this is what it says, is somewhere around about $688 million. That's probably over time.
Yeah, it's probably
Um,
been re-released a few times, I would
yeah, I would imagine
imagine.
so. Yeah. About an hour and 40 minutes. The director of this is Mel Stewart. The writers are Roald Dahl, obviously based on a book by Roald Dahl as well, Robert Kaufman and David Seltzer. And the cast, of course, I mean, the main man is Gene Wilder in this, isn't it?
Hmm.
But also Jack Albertson and Peter Ostrom, amongst others. Now, the logline on this one is a poor but hopeful boy seeks one of five coveted golden tickets that will send him on a tour of Willy Wonka's mysterious chocolate factory. Now, the reason I picked this one, Lee, was because, on the face of it, I think there isn't a whole lot of kind of horror going on in this. I mean, there is little bits,
Hmm.
there's sort of slightly sort of sinister. I mean, certainly Willy Wonka, is portrayed as this kind of slightly sinister, sort of oddball character, who has some sort of strange mannerisms, and is a little sort of, you can just get the sense that he's a little sort of unhinged at times.
Yeah.
You're never quite sure what you're going to sort of get. But it does kind of, once the kids kind of go into the chocolate factory, it is this slightly sort of macabre sort of world, these different sort of areas, it's very sort of strange. But the reason I sort of picked this one out is because I thought, apart from this kind of great performance from Wilder, and there is this kind of scene towards the end of the film, I don't know if you remember, where he kind of explodes on Charlie. Charlie's kind of run the sort of the gambit of all of this, and he's come out the other side. But there's this moment where sort of Gene Wilder sort of tells him, that I can't remember exactly what he says, but he basically kind of rails on Charlie and sort of goes
Hmm.
slightly nuts on him. And it's this really kind of strong performance. But the reason I picked this out was the second half of this film, I think, takes on this kind of slasher vibe,
Hmm.
where the kids are sort of slowly kind of dispatched, one by one, right? They're sort of, and
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
you're not quite sure what kind of happens to them,
Hmm.
but they're kind of taken out according to their own sort of personal vices, or their character
Yeah.
flaws. And it really does, like, if you go back and have a look at it, it really does sort of have this slasher kind of construction. And I think it's just the whole thing, right? The way that Willy Wonka is played by Gene Wilder, the sort of slightly strange and sinister undercurrent that's going on, throughout the chocolate factory and throughout Willy Wonka as a character. And this whole sort of slasher thing that's going on, where the kids are slowly getting dispatched, right? Not quite sure what's happening to them. I think it's a great sort of introduction to horror. I mean, it's very sort of horror light, and it's
Hmm.
not traditional in the sense that you're
Yeah.
dealing with sort of, monsters necessarily, or ghosts, or sort of, but you have this otherworldly kind of feel.
Yeah.
And you have this kind of titular character who is very sort of strange. And as I say, it takes on the construction of a slasher film.
Kind of like
Um,
Seven, but for kids.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that. I mean, but other than that, you've got, there is this kind of family unit that runs throughout as well. You obviously got Charlie and his granddad are there, but you're introduced to their family at home. Very strong family unit there. And you're obviously sort of it's kind of played throughout that Willy Wonka is sort of slightly lonely kind of character and lonely
Mm,
figure. And he is looking for someone to sort of take up the mantle, and sort of pass everything on to. And that's the whole point of all these kids going to the factory, and sort of Charlie ends up being that person, right? So he's sort of
yeah.
looking to sort of create a family in a way, I guess, and sort of pass on. But yeah, I think, once you sort of look at it and sort of break it down a little bit, I think this is a really sort of good primer for people sort of, or for kids, definitely as an introduction to sort of the horror genre. Any
Yeah.
thoughts on this movie, Lee? Any sort of
Well, I
childhood
mean,
recollections?
when you first said that Charlie and Chocolate Factory is going to be on there, I was like, okay, that's a bit weird, but I do like the parallels to it being a slasher movie. I can totally see that now that you've pointed it out. I mean, I can't really talk either because the most terrifying thing I've ever seen is still that robot woman from Superman 3. So I
Okay.
can't comment on what people find scary, because that still absolutely makes me sick to my stomach every time I see that scene. I'm just like, oh God. So yeah, but yeah, I can absolutely see the slasher comparisons there. It's quite interesting actually. Yes, I didn't realize quite how old this film was.
Yeah, yeah.
21.
1971, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So, that predates Halloween and Texas Chainsaw. So
Mm,
perhaps this could be like, the first proto slasher. You
could
know,
be.
maybe we've been looking in the wrong place. We should
Yeah.
have a better deep dive into this. I mean,
Well, you never know what's out there. I mean, I think probably Psycho is the first slasher, to be honest, but that's just my feelings on it.
possibly, but it doesn't adhere to all the rules, man. There's no final girl for a start.
But that's true. That's true. She's
Yeah,
bumped off early doors, isn't she?
yeah, exactly. She's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, so I mean, the other thing I think, sort of touched on it a minute ago, but the other thing about this movie is there is that sort of idea that the kids who are getting kind of bumped off, sort of the less virtuous ones,
yeah.
and the final kid, right? Not a girl, but the final kid is the most kind of virtuous of them all,
Yeah.
which is really slasher, that's totally like a slasher movie trope, right?
100%. 100%, absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe we should do a deep dive on Willy Wonka sometime. We'll add that to the list and consider that a horror.
I mean,
You can
I,
sing
I, I
along
still
and
think
follow the song.
was it the Tim Burton one, the newer one?
Oh yeah,
I mean, Johnny Depp as Michael Jackson Wonka is just freaking really disturbing in that
quite
film.
sinister, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely more of a creepy horror version, I think. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a really good take, man. It's a really good take.
Anyway, moving on from Wonka, what's next, Lee?
Okay, so next I'm gonna throw one out, which everyone will have seen, which is Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
The
come on.
original, the best. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters.
Damn right.
Damn straight. So directed by Ivan Reitman, written by Dan Aykroyd, Howard Ramis, obviously starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Howard Ramis, Sigourney Weaver, Ernie Hudson, Rick Moranis, blah 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 blah. Really great, really amazing cast, and this is a really universally loved film.
Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone has seen this film or is very familiar with it. It's recently had a something of a revival with the sort of modern recalls, not remakes, but they're recalls. The remake was god awful, so we won't
I
talk
haven't
about
actually
that.
seen any of the newer
Um,
sort of incarnations.
the new recalls, the Afterlife was really good.
Hmm.
Really really good. I haven't seen. I think it's Frozen something. I
Yeah.
haven't seen that one yet. The gender swapped remake is just hot garbage, absolute
Right.
garbage.
Right.
Sorry, I know that's not probably not a pretty correct thing to say, and it's not garbage because they just gender swapped it to females. It's garbage because it's a garbage film. Um, but
Just
the
made that
recall
clear.
is really good. There's a lot of love that's gone into that recall, and you can feel like the love the creators had for the original film. There's a lot of callbacks and it's really good. But focusing on the original for now, no kids in this one. So I think this is probably like the first one we really, the first sort of gateway horror we really sort of looked at that doesn't have like child protagonists in it, or youthful protagonists in it. Because obviously the Ghostbusters are all middle-aged men. But I think something about this film, I mean, there were kids' toys, there were kids' cartoon series. It spun out a lot of child-orientated media,
Mm.
which revolved around, catching ghosts, showing that ghosts weren't scary. You could catch them. Any kid could go down to Woolworths and get a proton pack for Christmas and
Yeah,
go out and do their ghost busting.
classic.
But I think this was inadvertently through its sort of spin-off media and its sort of cash in, this kind of became very much a child empowering franchise, even though it doesn't actually feature children and it doesn't empower children like the other most of the other films that we talk about has. But it was marketed towards children after
Mm.
its release. But everyone knows about Ghostbusters. It's a great film. It's funny. There's a few creepy moments in it, but nothing too scary, I don't think. I think kids would be pretty safe with this one. Say maybe the old lady ghost at the beginning is probably the scariest thing in the whole
I don't
film, I
know, dude.
think.
I think that that sort of black dog thing, like chasing Rick Moranis through Central Park's pretty freaky, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. That never really sort
Well,
of
that
bothered
freaked
me.
me out.
Maybe it was the sort of like the stop motion on the dogs was a little bit. I was used to stop motion because my mum used to love watching all the old Ray Harryhausen films
Oh yeah, yeah.
when I was a kid. So like that kind of stop motion thing never really sort of
Saw
bothered
through
me.
that.
So maybe that's why. But
Mm.
great film, really tight script, really really good performances all round. But yeah, I think the gateway horror aspect comes more from, for me at least, it comes more from the sort of spin-off and the marketing media that came from this film. Because I
Mm.
used to love watching the Ghostbusters cartoon. I think it's called The Real Ghostbusters. Yeah, it was. The Real Ghostbusters cartoon. I don't know if you ever watched it.
I think I have seen that. I mean, I didn't, it wasn't sort of a huge thing for me, but I was definitely in on the films, one
Mm.
and two.
Yeah, but I was very much into the cartoon as well, and I probably as a kid I probably liked the cartoon more than the film because the
Right.
film was probably a little bit like too old for me, and I kind of appreciated it more as I got older. But I think that kind of cartoon aspect of it is what kind of sold it for me as more of a gateway horror. But yeah, again, it's got creepy moments in it, but nothing too scary, especially for today's youth. I mean, you
Yeah,
could
pretty
probably,
tame right
yeah,
now.
it's pretty tame nowadays.
Although that moment where Sigourney Weaver's in the chair and she gets kind of grabbed, by those arms,
That's a
that's
good one.
pretty
Yeah,
scary,
that's a
right?
good
When you're a
one. I
kid.
forgot about that. Yeah, that's a cool one. And then she just got kind of whoosh
Yeah,
through the door. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Freaky.
Yeah, there are some cool moments in there, but it's just a great film all
Yeah.
around.
Total banger, dude. I mean, I think one of the things I think though is there is like a slightly childlike humor in this movie that,
Yeah.
it's not like it doesn't feel like adult humor. It
Mm.
does feel sort of tonally, it feels aimed at kids to me.
Yeah.
Looking
To,
back, I
to be to
think.
be fair, you could keep all the dialogue, most of the dialogue, and just like swap the four Ghostbusters out for four kids, and
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
it would play pretty much the same way, I think.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
have a point there.
I think there's
And,
just such a great there's like just the performances all round are so fantastic in this, and even
yeah.
like the bit players, Rick Moranis is great,
Oh
Annie
yeah.
Potts is great, right? And well, like William Atherton, like just he's such a dick, it's like such an officious little dick,
Yeah.
It's just it's classic, man, this movie. And I think it's like one of the great kind of New York films for me.
Mm.
There's just something
Yeah.
about this. It's obviously set in New York, but I do think, like, there is this. There's obviously ghosts going on, right? But there's this empowerment thing running through it where you can do something about it and you can kind of
Mm.
catch the ghosts. And yeah, man, like you got to think like late 80s, right? Everyone's running around if you're a kid with, doing Ghostbusters stuff, right? And
Yeah.
sort of just the marketing was fantastic. I think there are actually kind of scarier elements probably in Ghostbusters 2.
Hmm.
With what is it like Vigor or whatever his name is? I can't
Vigo,
remember.
Vigo the Carpathian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah. So
man, yeah, that guy was fucking
that guy's
terrible.
pretty scary, right? There's some
Yeah.
scary stuff in there. But yeah, man, this is great. What a film, eh? It's so entertaining. If you
Hmm.
watch the DVD of this as well, there's this amazing commentary on there, and it has the kind of silhouettes of two of the guys doing the commentary. I think it's Ivan Reitman and maybe Harold Ramis, and they're sort
Yeah.
of silhouetted against the screen as it plays, and it's really cool. It's like they're sat in a cinema. It's really worth a listen. Yeah, fantastic movie, right? And it does, again, it kind of has this kind of family dynamic thing going on there with the
Hmm.
team and, sort of a team up, but they're kind of looking after each other and they're sort of pulling together at, moments when it's looking bleak and it's down, they're sort of down and out at a time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, totally cool, man. Great, great pick.
Thank you.
Absolute
What,
banger.
what have you
Okay,
got next?
so my next one, dude, let me have a little look. So I picked out, and this is something that I've only come to fairly recently, and I imagine that this is something that you have never seen. But this is a film called Coraline. Have you ever
I
seen?
have seen Coraline actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I have 5 children. Yes, I have
interesting.
seen Coraline. Uh,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Well, this is an animated. Well, it's kind of this is a stop motion movie again, isn't it? Is it
Mm.
stop motion or is it animated? I can't really. I think it's stop motion.
It's one of those
Um,
ones that kind of blur the lines, but it's definitely a
yeah,
stop motion style. I'm not sure if it's CG'd to look stop motion or if it actually is stop motion. I couldn't tell you
pretty
without
sure
looking
it's
it up.
stop motion, but
Mm.
anyway, so this one, I mean, is was shot on a budget, a $60 million budget. It's pretty big budget.
Mm.
But 186 million at the box office, so it's an
Yep.
absolute smash. It's about an hour and 40 long. It's directed by Henry Selick.
Hmm.
Writers on this, as far as I can see, Henry Selick and Neil Gaiman.
Ooh.
Um, and a big and a big cast on this one. So it's Dakota Fanning, Terry Hatcher, John Hodgman, Ian McShane, Dawn French, Jennifer Saunders. Met Dawn French once.
Yeah, me too.
Robert Bailey Jr. And the logline on this is wandering in her rambling old house in her boring new town, a young girl discovers a hidden door to a strangely idealized version of her life that seems too good to be true. So this is basically the story of a girl that she moves to this new sort of old house, seemingly sort of old house, isn't it? Up in the sort of countryside. There's quite remote. There's not a lot going on, but it's in this kind of strangely bleak sort of landscape. Moves up there with her mum and dad, and she's basically sort of just bored out of her mind, isn't she? She's milling around the house. Mum and dad don't seem to have a whole lot of time for her. They're sort of
Mm.
busy at work or whatnot. And she's sort of, kicking around the house and kicking around outside and sees this kind of young lad who's, I think, called Wyborn, is what I remember his name as being. And anyway, in the house, she ends up finding this sort of little door that's been sort of papered over, and finds the sort of the keys, and she opens it up, but it's bricked up. Anyway, later on goes down. There's this little mouse that sort of takes her down there, I think, and she opens it up, and it's basically like a tunnel, isn't it, into this sort of alternate world, so it's
Mm.
the other side of the other side of this tunnel is the same house, but
Yeah.
with these sort of idealized parents who have loads of time for her and sort of lavish love and all of this stuff on her, but they've got buttons for eyes,
Mm.
and all the characters seem to have these strange kind of buttons for eyeballs.
Yeah.
But it comes about that these it's kind of a sinister, basically other world, and the idealized mother is actually this sort of terrible kind of tyrant, sort of witch character who tries to sort of, it's basically a lure to bring
Mm.
sort of Coraline over to the other side and keep her there. But this is, I mean, look, this movie for me was a lot of fun when I actually sort of sat down and watched it. I'd had the DVD for quite some time. When I actually watched it, I thought it was really great animation. It's really kind of wonderfully colorful. There's a muted color palette on the real world side, and then this sort of really vivid kind of color palette on the other side. Really wonderful score as well. But the thing for me was, I think this is a great primer again for sort of, for horror films. You've got so many of the kind of tropes. Once the kind of visuals kick in Act Three, it's kind of reminiscent of a lot of kind of spooky sort of horror stuff going on in there.
Yeah.
You've got this kind of witchy mother character. She's got kind of needles for hands, and there's all this sort of stuff going on. There's sort of the Wyborn character has his kind of his face sort of stitched into this kind of Richter smile. And she's, it all turns really quite sinister. But you've got other things like you've got these sort of eerie kind of trees outside and this strange woodland and Wyborn's early sort of character in the real world, his costume is sort of, this kind of mask thing, which is kind
Hmm.
of quite sort of, scary. You've obviously got the kind of the secret door right in the house. You got this sort of secret tunnel, parallel universes, there's kind of black cats and there's this well outside, spooky old house. It's just all of this stuff is really sort of kind of horror tropes, I think.
Yeah.
And bugs and all of that sort of stuff. And I think it's really a great kind of primer once it kind of kicks off. And certainly, I think that the themes are another thing about this sort of these gateway horror films. I think, and the themes of this are sort of about discovering kind of personal bravery, and
Yeah.
the importance of sort of the imperfect real over the sort of seemingly sort of perfect, sort of superficial,
Hmm.
non-real world. Certainly, kind of a kind of cautionary tale about sort of unchecked curiosity and also sort of appreciating what you have. So I think there's loads of kind of sort of horror tropes in there, loads of stuff for sort of people maybe just thinking about oh, it's a great gateway horror. I think that's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
what it is. But it's super entertaining, like really good sort of voice cast, really great design, character design, and pretty damn entertaining, dude. I really
Mm.
sort of enjoyed this one. I thought it was good.
Yeah. It is a great film. I don't remember a lot of it, but I have seen it a few times. And yeah, I mean it's kind of classic Gaiman, isn't it, really? I mean, despite his like fall from grace, he can write a hell of a good story.
Yeah,
And this is a classic example of that kind of sort of magical realism kind of style that he does
yeah,
so well.
yeah. That's a
But
great
yeah,
point.
it's a great film. My youngest daughter, especially, she absolutely loved this film. Like she absolutely loves it. She talks every now and again about getting a tattoo of it at some point.
I knew it.
So I wouldn't be surprised if she does.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
one.
so I mean, this one's a really good primer.
Mm,
And it's got good sort of DVD release as well. If anyone's still buying DVDs, definitely worth a look. So yeah, that's Coraline. Yeah, I'd
yeah,
recommend it highly.
good one, man. Good one.
So what's next for you, bud?
Okay, my next one is a super modern. I say super modern, sort of in the last 10 years. Kind of affair, and it's Stranger Things, the TV show,
Of
which
course.
I think is I think it for the modern sort of generation. I think sort of like millennials, that kind of thing. I think this is probably going to be a gateway horror for a hell of a lot of people.
Ah, I can
I
imagine.
think
Yeah.
in like 20, 30 years time, when people talk about gateway horror, Stranger Things is going to be up there for a lot of people. I think the first episode was released back in 15th of July 2016, written by Matt and Ross Duffer. Obviously, it's a TV show, so I say a streaming show. It's a Netflix exclusive, so the episode times sort of vary from about like 45 minutes to like close to 2 hours, I think the longest one is. Great cast, absolutely fantastic cast, including Millie Bobby Brown, Finn Wolfhard, Gaten Malazero, Caleb McLaughlin, David Harbour, Winona Ryder, and it's kind of set in the 80s, and it's very, very much that kind of classic gateway formula. You got a bunch of young friends versus unfathomable supernatural forces, parallel dimensions, psychic powers, various otherworldly demonic entities. And there's a whole undercurrent of love of Dungeons and Dragons role playing. And it's just fantastic. I don't know if you've seen Stranger Things or not.
I have. So I've seen the first two seasons of Stranger
Hmm.
Things, and I haven't gone back beyond. I think I got rid of Netflix, is what it was.
Hmm.
And so I haven't been able to watch any more. But yeah, first two
Yeah.
seasons. I mean, I thought the first two seasons were great.
Yeah, I mean, season two, a lot of people think is a little bit of a sort of decline in quality. So I know for I kind of thought I enjoyed season two, but season one was amazing.
Mm.
And then I was kind of like, oh, it's starting to go downhill now. And I was like, I'll give season three a try. Then season three was just breathtakingly good, as was season four. So they definitely kind of pulled up their bootstraps and they're knocking it out of the park again. But obviously, the climatic finale is coming the end of this year, the last season broke into three parts so Netflix can make extra subscribers out of it. But to be fair, I think they've spent something like 400 million on this last season. It's a
Wow.
ridiculous amount. Don't quote me on that. That's just what someone told me. But
Mm.
yeah, they've spent a ridiculous amount of money on it, and this is their kind of flagship show. So I don't know what they're going to do when when this does finish.
I imagine they've
But
got the Duffers kind of nailed down to some sort of post Stranger Things,
I'm fairly
development
sure they
deal.
have. Yeah, I mean, they can pretty much like name their price and go wherever they want to now. I
Mm.
mean, that's how big this show is. But I kind of, I mean, we studied the pitch deck for this show. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah, yeah,
we
no,
studied the
totally.
pitch deck for this during our course, and it's a from the concept and the pitch deck from so this idea has been obviously with them for a long time. This is like their sort of work of art, their Mona Lisa. You
Yeah,
know,
magnum opus.
that's the word I was looking for. Thank you very much. So I'll be interested to see if they can like, pull it off again, or if this is just kind of lightning in a bottle.
Mm.
But yeah, I think Stranger Things is fantastic gateway horror. And I think it's resonated very much with sort of like today's sort of like young adults, teens, older kids. And I think it will be referred to in the same way we talk about like Ghostbusters and Monster Squad and Lost Boys. I think that generation will talk about Stranger Things. I think it's probably created a whole generation of horror lovers just waiting to kind of blossom.
From what I remember from the first two seasons is there is some sort of genuinely, fairly disturbing things, right?
Oh yeah,
In
there's
Stranger
some
Things.
real genuinely scary moments, especially in that season one when you don't really know what's going on.
Mm. Yeah,
As the mythology kind of expands, everything is kind of explained. So you kind of know you'll see something now and you'll be, oh, that's this or that's that. But back in that first season, we had no idea what was going on.
Mm.
No idea what all these things were. And that's what I think season one is definitely the scariest season because it's that whole fear of the unknown aspect.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as soon as you take that unknown and make it known, then the fear will just drop because we know what it is. And we can always imagine scarier things than what we see.
Yeah.
So once we see what it is, it's never as scary as what we imagine it to be. And that's a kind of classic case of what happens in Stranger Things. But the season one, oh man, it's just so good.
Great ideas in there as well,
Mm,
wasn't there? Running throughout that first season. I mean, just such.
yeah.
I mean, you look back now and it's kind of they're almost iconic, right? But there's just such
Yeah.
great kind of ideas going into that, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Just
like the Christmas lights,
a bolt from the
yeah,
blue, right?
yeah, the upside down. It's just so many great things.
And
But you should definitely check out season three and four because they are fantastically good.
if I get myself back on Netflix, I definitely
Mm,
will. I mean, that's probably one of the main reasons that I would go back onto Netflix, to be
yeah.
honest, is just to catch. Maybe I should do like a free trial or something like that. Go back on
Wait
there
till season five's out in its full, and then just
and
like
just
sign
go
up for a
binge it.
month and just binge the whole thing. I think that's what people tend to do.
Yeah, I remember the cast being really good as well in this, and
Mm,
just doing a great job. Like the kids all did a great
yeah,
job. David Harbour, yeah, great. Winona
yeah.
Ryder, I thought did really well as well. So Sean Austin was in there for a time, wasn't he as
He was
well?
in season two. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember him sort of being in there and being quite good. Yeah, man. Awesome, awesome pick. It's a shame I
Those
haven't.
child actors, they really, whoever did the casting for that show, just fucking nailed it. Like you literally could not have cast that show any better.
Yeah, did a great
Every
job.
one of those kids holds their own in every scene that they're in. There's never a scene where you think, "Oh man, that kid can't really act." Every single one of those kids is amazing.
What's the sort of duration of the seasons? Like, what's the timeline? Is it over a number of years, or
Um,
do we know?
season two happens fairly quickly after season one. Season three, I think, is maybe like 6 months. I think there's a larger because obviously kids are aging faster
Well,
as
that's what I was
they
thinking. Yeah.
yeah. So there's a bigger gap between series three and four. And I mean, they've all gone from looking like about 14 to looking about like 27 now. So I'll be interested to see how big an age gap is for this last season.
Yeah,
It's going to have to be fairly
substantial.
substantial because they've changed so much.
Yeah.
I
Great
think Millie
stuff.
Bobby Brown's got married and had a kid or adopted a
Yeah.
kid, I think, since like since the last season and this one. So,
Yeah.
you're not gonna I don't know, maybe she can still pull off being like 14 years old. Who knows? But I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh, dude, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed those first two seasons. I have to go back
Mm.
and do a deep dive on it, man.
Yeah, and again, it's those classic gateway horror kind of themes. It's like kids, against the unknown, family, the importance of family, family dynamic. I mean, these
Mm.
kids basically like they make their own family. You rarely see, you do kind of see their parents around every now and again, but most of it is like the family they've kind of made for themselves, with their friends,
Yeah.
and it's just it's kind of beautiful in a way. It sounds really soppy, but they're all such good friends, and they're always there for each other, and it's kind of it's a good kind of example for kids to how like friendship should be, I think.
And I always, again, like with this, I sort of, as with some other kind of gateway horrors, it's like the kids kind of know more than the adults,
Yes.
or they're
Yeah,
better informed than
absolutely.
the adults, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a big thing in a lot of these films, right?
Mm.
Nice, dude. Amazing pick. Good stuff. Love it. So my next one is going to be one of my this I mean one of my favorite films of all time. I think this one.
Ooh.
Um, oh no, I might actually do that one last. Yeah, no. So the next one for me is going to be Beetlejuice.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Good one.
so this is obviously another Tim Burton film.
Yep.
Second one on my list. Release date for this one, August 19th, 1988. Shot for around $15 million. Box office, $75 million.
Mhm.
Runs for about an hour and a half. Obviously, director Tim Burton. Writers were Michael McDowell, Larry Wilson, and Warren Scarron. The cast for this one, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Michael Keaton, absolutely smashes it out the
Oh
park.
yeah.
Winona Ryder again, Catherine O'Hara, so a couple of people obviously turning up again in sort of Tim Burton films. Logline of this one, the spirits of a deceased couple are harassed by an unbearable family that has moved into their home and hire a malicious spirit to drive them out. So I'm assuming you've seen Beetlejuice, Lee.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Many
yeah, yeah.
times.
I think most people have seen this movie. So I mean, this one again is sort of just a sort of raucous. I mean, this one's a raucous kind of comedy, isn't it?
Mm.
It's. I'm not sure. I was thinking about this, watching it again, sort of fairly recently. What sort of age range this is kind of really aimed at?
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure it's necessarily aimed at sort of young. It's not aimed at young kids, right? I mean, you'd have to
No,
be
definitely not.
definitely sort of a PG, I would imagine, or some
Mm.
but there is an F bomb dropped in there, so I don't know how that would.
PG-12 kind of rating, I
Yeah,
imagine.
but I mean, again, I mean, this one kind of has a lot of those kind of horror tropes sort of
Yeah.
thrown in there. You've got the ghost story, obviously. This kind of haunted house. You've got the kind of some body horror going on. You've got the sort of, especially in the sort of the waiting room scenes, and they're sort of dealing with their
Yeah.
caseworker. You've got
Yeah.
like you've got shrunken heads, and you've got
Mm.
sort of some sort of light injury detail. There's like dudes hanging on hooks, and they're kind of getting wheeled around or whatever. Dude's been flattened, run over. So that's like super funny. And I think, but all of this is not played necessarily for it's not gruesome scares, right? It's
Mm.
played for laughs, I think, a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
this stuff. But yeah, I mean, what I thought was interesting about this one is it's essentially like a haunted house film, right? But it's told from
Yeah.
the ghost point of view.
Yes.
So it's sort of a little sort of flip around. Yeah, and the story is that Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin are sort of have moved into this wonderful sort of old house, and they're sort of essentially have this car accident in which they die, and then they have to kind of they're essentially sort of stuck in the house, and
Yeah.
they have to navigate their way through the afterlife, and this kind of terrible sort of garish kind of family move in. And I think it's Catherine O'Hara. I think it's Jeffrey Jones is the husband who's like pretty funny in this. I mean, I think he had a fall from grace as well. But and
Oh
then
yeah.
Winona Ryder
Big
is
time.
obviously
Yeah.
yeah, Winona Ryder is obviously the daughter, and she can actually see Gina Davis and Alec
Mm.
Baldwin as ghosts, and they sort of strike up this friendship. and they sort of obviously want to protect her from Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice, who they
Yeah.
call upon to try and get rid of this family out of their house, right? Yeah, I mean Michael Keaton's just sort of wild in this. He's big, loud. I mean it's kind of iconic, isn't it? But at the
Yeah,
time it's
absolutely.
totally fresh, but big, loud. You know, he's sort of he's throwing. I mean, he's swinging for the. He's really swinging for it in this one. And yeah, it's great kind of makeup, great costume designs, some really great kind of Tim Burton-esque kind of
Yeah.
visuals. But the thing I think about this one as well is that the human characters are the ones that are seen as kind of the grotesques, right?
Yes. Oh
Um,
yeah, definitely.
they've got this sort of terrible decor and awful kind of outfits and sort of attitudes, and they treat Lydia, who's Winona Ryder's character, like total shit.
Mm.
It's kind of the ghosts are seen as the nice ones and sort of the humans as the terrible, the scary ones, right? So
Yeah.
it's got that whole sort of switcheroo vibe running through it. And there's some great sort of moments in there, I'm thinking and it's quite often sort of combining horror elements with comedy, right? So,
Yeah.
the Michael Keaton bits are obviously sort of quite gross but pretty funny.
Yeah.
You've got that whole sort of dinner sequence, where the shrimps kind of come out and grab them by the face, but there's a little sort of song and dance routine beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So as I say, watched this again sort of relatively recently and really kind of enjoyed it, man. And I thought it's kind of aged pretty well and the cast do a great job, but it's got all of those things going on, the things that we keep sort of talking about with these. You've got some of the elements, the
Yeah.
ghosts, the haunted house, right? The
Yeah.
sort of it's a little bit of light kind of injury detail and sort of body horror stuff going on and this kind of idea of family kind of again sort of
Yeah.
running through it, and you've got the sort of the good versus the bad and you've got the
Mm.
sort of family sort of unit running through it, and at the end the sort of the family does come together and the ghosts are kind of incorporated into the mix, into the
Yeah.
family dynamic,
Yeah. Which
um,
is kind of cool.
which is really cool. Yeah, so I mean I think this one's right up there as a good sort of gateway horror movie. It's kind of light, fun, it's big and it's kind of broad, but it's got a lot of the tropes that
Mm.
a lot of horror films have.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I always found with this movie is there's got a lot of heart in this film.
Yeah,
It deals with some really sort of like dark and what could be depressing subjects like mortality and like death and grief and all that kind of stuff. But it never kind of takes it lightly, but it somehow makes it enjoyable.
never morbid,
But
is it?
yeah, it's never really particularly morbid. Yeah, it's always kind of light-hearted despite its subject matter. But I think, like you said, again, it's all about family, isn't it?
Yeah,
It always comes back to that kind of familial, and you got the obviously young child, as in Winona Ryder in this one. But yeah, it's a great film. Have you seen the sequel they did recently?
I haven't. No, I haven't got
No, me
around to it.
neither. I haven't seen it yet. But
I'd be interested to watch it. It's one of those things that you kind of a little bit of trepidation going to see that, right? Because you
yeah,
love the
yeah,
original and you're like,
same
oh,
really, same.
hope they
But
don't screw this up, right?
I think the reviews have been mostly pretty positive.
Yeah, I'll have to get around to it. I have to have a watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about this one is there's also the sort of idea that Lydia kind of knows more than her parents.
Yes.
And she's the sort of conduit between the two worlds, right? So it's that whole dynamic of although she's not the protagonist per se, but
Yeah.
she's definitely a character that is more in the know than
Yeah.
some of the adults sort of rocking around.
Yeah, and that knowledge, it's like again, it just creates empowerment, doesn't it? It kind of
Yeah,
empowers the youth, makes them feel empowered, which it seems to be a pretty key factor for the good gateway horrors.
yeah, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was my one. Yeah, what's your next pick, Lee?
Okay, my final pick of the day is a film that absolutely terrified me as a child. Like and I'll tell you the story behind it in a second. Which is Gremlins, the
Yeah.
original Gremlins. Released 7th of December 1984, budget of about 11 million. Had a really good run at the box office with 165 million. Directed by Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus, and starring Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, Corey Feldman. And basically, the plot is a young man who's kind of a little bit sort of neglected by his dad. His dad's never really around. He's like a traveling inventor slash salesman, and he picks him up this strange little creature from this antiquated Chinese herbal medicine shop, like in the middle of some back alley down in Chinatown. And the owner doesn't want to sell him this little creature. It's called a mogwai, because they can be very difficult to look after and have a lot of rules. But they need money, so the I think it's like his grandkid like smuggles the mogwai out and sells it to this salesman, who then gives it to his kid for Christmas. But there are three important rules you must always remember with mogwais. Do you remember the rules?
So don't get it wet.
Yep.
Don't shine. It's afraid of lights.
Yep.
And is it something about? Oh man,
Most important rule of all.
is it don't let it out after midnight?
Don't feed it after midnight. There we go.
Is that
Never
it?
ever feed him after midnight.
Don't feed him after midnight. Yeah,
Which
of
is a really
course.
weird rule because,
It's a
like,
strange rule, isn't it?
where's the cutoff point?
I
You
imagine.
can't feed him after midnight, but when is it safe to feed him again?
Yeah, in what time zone?
Exactly, yeah, midnight where, and
Yeah.
okay. When does that kind of counter reset, or can you just never feed it? Because it's always after midnight, isn't it? It's maybe
Yeah.
maybe there's like a 12-hour window and
It'll be better if say don't feed it after dark, right? Or
yeah.
only feed it in the daylight.
Yeah, that would be much more practical.
Mm.
But anyway, he breaks all of these rules one after the
Of
other.
course he does. The kid.
By getting them wet, they multiply. Not in like a nice way, but they kind of these little spheres pop off the little mogwai's back, and then they kind of grow into like these more little furry mogwais, but they're all like little evil bastard mogwais. You got the one like nice little cute friendly mogwai, which is Gizmo, and all the rest are just like horrible little bastards, and they're led by one called Stripe. And obviously, light hurts them. Sunlight will kill them. It will melt them, and they basically chew through his clock wire. So he ends up giving them like some chicken after midnight, and they all kind of metamorphosize into these big, greasy alien-style egg pods. And then they hatch into gremlins, which are like 2 foot tall, like reptilian clawed, fanged, death dealing little evil sons of bitches. And yeah, man, this film absolutely terrified me as a kid. And I'll tell you why it terrified me as a kid, because like my dad came around one day and he sat me in a chair, put the lights off, put this film on, and said, just like, watch this. And then he just fucked off somewhere for a few months. And I was absolutely terrified. Like I
Oh
was just
man.
like hiding under my I think I had like a blanket or something. I think I don't know how old I was. I wasn't that old.
Oh Lee.
And maybe like 6 or 7 or something. And I was just freaking terrified. I was just like peeking through this thing in my blanket. And the bit that scared me the most was I don't know if you remember this bit, but there's a bit where he takes one of the Mogwai sort of pods into school, and he sort of leaves it with his science teacher.
Don't remember that actually.
And his science teacher, and it hatches, and like in the background is like this sort of like dissection video, or this video of like an operation with a heart, and there's this heart like beating in the background, like doof, 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 doof. And he's kind of trying to sort of lure this gremlin out. You don't know what it is because you haven't seen them yet, and he's trying to he's reaching under this desk or something with a Twinkie to try and lure it
Oh,
out,
I
and it just
do
kind of like
remember this.
pulls him
Yeah,
in, and
yeah.
like, oh my God. Yeah, that
Classic.
absolutely traumatized me at the time. Yeah, so that's how Gremlins pretty much like traumatized me as a child. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a great film. It's a great film. It's such a fun movie. I didn't appreciate it at the time because I was too busy like crapping my pants. But it's such a sweet movie. Like I say, Gizmo is absolutely adorable. And the Gremlins are such characters. They're just such evil little bastards. They're so malicious. It's just hilarious to watch. Um, you've got that great kind of monologue from Zach Galligan's girlfriend, about Phoebe Cates, about like how her dad like died and got cooked in the chimney because he tried to be Santa one year, which they really rip on in the
Uh,
sequel. And you got like the mean old lady who wants to like kill his dog, who
yeah,
gets
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's just so many great scenes in the film. Definitely probably a little creepy for the younger viewers. Um, and Zach Galligan obviously is fairly old, but he's still kind of on the youthful kind of side of the scale. I think he's supposed to be like early 20s in the film, I
yeah. I
think.
think so. Yeah,
And you got like Corey Feldman in there doing doing his thing, so you've got that little bit of child empowerment going on in the background.
yeah,
But it's just a great film, really good like physical puppetry effects. I'm really kind of bummed that they haven't done any more Gremlins films.
mm,
You know,
yeah,
I'm hoping they'll kind of. There's always talk of a Gremlins film being redone, and like I say, the sequel was pretty good. It went full comedy. There was no real sort of horror elements in that sequel,
mm.
but I think it's definitely long overdue a requel, a Ghostbusters style requel. I think is highly deserved and needed for Gremlins.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously a great Christmas movie, right?
Yes,
Banker of a
absolutely. Yeah,
Christmas film, isn't it?
second only to Die Hard
Yeah, that's
on as
that's
the
right.
great Christmas
It's a good
movies.
Christmas watch.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I love this movie, man. I mean, I sort of can't remember exactly when I first saw this, but it's one of those movies that definitely kind of informed, childhood sort of film watching, as a lot of these have, right? Like certainly Ghostbusters and Monster Squad, Lost Boys and Gremlins. I remember Gremlins 2 just being absolutely bonkers. I mean, they did go sort of all out. It
Yeah.
may have been what kind of killed the franchise a bit because I think they spent a lot of cash and maybe didn't make quite so much back as the first one. But and
Yeah.
I remember it being like really kind of really great. These gremlins just running amok, right? And I just love. I think I almost even like Gremlins 2 a little bit more for some reason,
Mm.
just because they're they're just they're just having a wild fun time.
Yeah.
And it's I can always relate to these gremlins, right? They're just out to have fun. It's
Yeah.
like, as long as they're having fun, like it's all okay. But their fun is
Yeah.
like sadistic,
Yeah.
asshole kind of fun. But yeah, man, I love. There's something tonally about these movies as well, which I think is maybe like a Joe Dante thing. Like he has this kind of style, which, and I think he's done a
Mm.
lot of, kind of things that you could consider to be sort of gateway horrors. But he's
Yeah.
obviously a real kind of lover of horror movies.
Mm.
And he's obviously, I mean, if you ever listen to him speak, he's a real kind of cinephile. So he's really sort of steeped in the history of,
Yeah.
a lot of different genres. But he does love these kind of movies that are sort of aimed at kids,
Yeah.
but tonally can be a bit challenging.
Hmm.
And, they have elements in them which are probably, borderline suitable.
Yeah.
But I think that's good, right? I think it's good to sort of
Absolutely.
them for kids to be sort of challenged and to be
Mm.
scared. And, I think there's probably a sort of there's something about movies that kind of scare kids. There's something engaging about that, I think, for
Yeah.
kids. They do kind of, well,
Absolutely.
my
Yeah.
experience is they do kind of like it a little bit, right?
Hmm.
To be a bit frightened, by
Yeah.
things. And I think Joe Dante's a master of this, right? And Chris
Absolutely.
Columbus, I mean, he's a classic kind of writer of children's sort of movies as well, right? And
Yeah.
sort of he's obviously gone on and directed Harry Potter films, and he was,
Hmm.
Home Alone franchise and loads of stuff,
Yeah.
right? He's sort of
Yeah.
really steeped in all of that as well. But yeah, man, fantastic kind of puppetry in this and such iconic kind of character design.
Hmm.
Yeah, really, really cool. Got that family dynamic thing going on as
Yeah.
well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there are
really,
some
really good.
genuinely quite scary moments in it too, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Can you remember like the scariest? I mean, you've obviously said about the science teacher, but what was,
I mean, that was my scariest bit. But I mean, you got
yeah,
like the bit where there's one hiding in a Christmas tree.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, when it
yeah.
actually attacks, it's really funny because like she's just carrying a Christmas tree on her back and like just shaking this thing
That's
around. But when she's kind of she knows it's there and it keeps like playing this record and you kind of see these like red eyes like glowing from in the Christmas tree.
yeah, brilliant.
Um and like when Stripe is kind of hunting Billy and Gizmo through, or they're hunting him, should I say? I'm not really sure who's hunting who through that toy store at the end.
Yeah,
And Gizmo gets in his little car, and he's, oh man,
That's right.
this is so
So
good,
cool. What a
so
banger.
good, man, so good.
Yeah,
Uh,
what a
I
banger.
don't think
Oh,
there was there ever a cartoon for Gremlins?
I don't know,
Because I
man.
know for like Beetlejuice there was a cartoon, Ghostbusters there was a
I
cartoon.
don't remember there
I
being
don't
a cartoon.
remember a cartoon for Gremlins, which is weird because you would have think that would have been like a real kind of hot property because Gizmo toys were everywhere.
I was going to say there's a lot of kind of merch tie-ins, right, that are aimed
Mm,
at kids, which again,
yeah.
like we've seen with a lot of these films, there's
That was
sort
an
of,
80s thing, I think. I mean, RoboCop and Aliens,
yeah,
they had
yeah.
toys, even though like kids were like 10 years away from being able to see the films, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
they all had their own little toy lines going at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe that's the root of all of our problems today, Lee.
Could be.
Too many horror films merchandise towards
Could
kids.
be.
Yeah, man, what a great movie. And as I say, like I haven't seen this one for a little while, so I think it's been a couple of years, so I think I'm gonna have to go and watch this at some point.
Mm,
Definitely, yeah, and Gremlins 2 as well. Maybe I'll do it like a double header, right? I'll do a back to back
that would be cool.
Gremlins 2 night.
That would be cool.
Yeah, around Christmas. Oh, what a great pick, dude. Loads of fun.
Cheers, bro. What about you? What's your final?
Well, it's actually quite a good segue because this is another Joe Dante movie.
Ah,
So
brilliant.
this one, dude, is one of my kind of favorite films, just in general. But it's
Hmm.
definitely, I think, a good gateway horror. And this is The Burbs.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen The Burbs, Lee.
I've seen it decades ago, and I remember I didn't enjoy it, but I
Oh,
was
Lee.
literally, I give me some credit. I was literally like a kid when I saw it, and I remember just not really understanding what was going on, and like, is there monsters or bad things in this or not? And
Well, not
I can't
really.
even remember how it ended. I just remember I didn't really rate it very highly,
Well,
but
you're gonna have to go back
in
because
my
it's an absolute
defense,
banger.
I was but a wee child at the time.
Okay. Well, the release date on this one is June 16th, 1989. So it's another classic 80s movie.
Hmm.
Budget was around 18 million. Box office was just under 50 million. Runtime, hour and 42 minutes. Again, director, the great Joe Dante. Writer, Dana Olson. And the cast on this one is Tom Hanks, Carrie Fisher, Bruce Dern, Henry Gibson, Rick Ducommun, Theodore Gottlieb. I think Corey Feldman shows up in there as well. Courtney Gaines. But I mean, let me remind you. So the log line on this one is an overstressed suburbanite and his neighbors are convinced that then the new family on their block is part of a murderous satanic cult. And I love this movie, Lee. I mean, this is what, like I say, this is one of my. I mean, I think I just caught this movie at a certain time, and this is another one
Yeah,
that me and my sisters sort of sat down and watched, and still sort of love to this day. But basically, and it's also peak like Tom Hanks.
yeah,
He is smashing it out of the park like in every film that he's in. Um, but yeah, Tom Hanks plays this guy Ray, and who lives, and his wife is played by Carrie Fisher, and they live in this kind of, suburban sort of, just standard suburban. He's a suburbanite, right? Nice little
mm,
road, everything's kind of nice and easy. And he's on vacation. He just wants to stay at home, kind of lays around, do some tinkering or whatever. But they have this elderly neighbor called Walter, and Walter kind of goes missing, and they
yeah,
think that the new family on the block, and I can't, what's their name? I can't quite remember their name. It's like the Klopex, maybe something like, yeah,
mm,
Klopex. They've moved in and they think that there's something strange going on, and they think the Klopex have kind of killed Walter, and they get together with, he gets together with sort of some neighbors, and they start, basically the neighbors become sort of more and more kind of, this is kind of light on scares, but it's kind of
yeah,
heavy on paranoia, right? And
right.
sort of just delusional sort of neighbors getting together, and they start to think that these oddball neighbors are serial killers, and they're part of this satanic kind of cult thing, and they've killed their older neighbor. And they try and sort of find out what's happened, and it's just hilarity ensues, man.
Mm.
I mean, they try and get evidence and stuff, and they're sort of trying to sneak into this basement or whatever, and it's just loads of sort of slapstick laughs. But you've got the one thing about this film I think is really great is like tonally it's absolutely fantastic, right? It's
Yeah,
funny, but there's also some good sort of dramatic moments. But the cast is totally like knocking it out of the park. Like Tom Hanks is great. Bruce Dern is absolutely fantastic in this movie. And you know, Rick DeCommon is brilliant as well. He plays this kind of neighbor called Art, who's a bit of a goofball. Bruce
mm,
Dern is this kind of ex-army sort of neighbor, and he's
yeah,
kind of all kitted out with the uniforms and all of this stuff and all the equipment. But I think, you know, the reason I think this is a good gateway horror is The Burbs. It's kind of similar to Halloween in a way, in that it
yeah,
brings, you know, horror and sinister kind of doings into your neighborhood, you know, gives it that sort of neighborhood kind of suburban setting. Loads of kind of classic horror tropes. So you've got these kind of sinister neighbors. You've got this overgrown, sort of slightly unkempt sort of house in the middle of suburbia. You know, you've got like experiments in the basement and all of this sort of stuff. And it really kind of, like I say, it's fairly light on scares, you know, jump
yeah,
scares or sort of monsters and that sort of thing. But it does delve into this kind of idea of madness and
mm,
paranoia and this kind of, you know, almost like you know, it's this hysteria, right? Mass
yeah,
hysteria is going on in this kind of neighborhood. Yeah, like I say, Bruce Dern is fucking just fantastic. And the Klopeks, like they look like they're from, you know, like a Hammer horror movie, right?
yeah,
The sort of the younger kind of Klopek looks a bit like a little sort of odd Wolfman sort of thing. You've got, I'm sure. Oh, I don't know. I can't think. You will recognize the two older sort of brothers if you see them.
yeah.
Been in loads of stuff, right? But really great kind of casting, sort of
Mhm.
iconic kind of you know looking characters. And yet again, I mean, this is like Tom Hanks at his you know absolute kind of best.
Yeah,
And there's this whole, you know, there's this bit at the end where the sort of the police turn up and they've tried to get into their house and you know the fire ambulance, the whole thing's going up, you know, it's kicking off and they sort of figure out that they've got it all wrong, you know, and the Walter turns up and he's fine.
mm,
And Hanks does this great sort of speech where he's like, you know, all the sort of the crazy paranoia and suspicious, you know, it's they're not the problem, right? It's us, like we're the
yeah.
problem. You know, it's really, really great. Does a full like Tom Hanks breakdown. But yeah, man, I mean, and Joe Dante just like directs the shit out of this film. Like I
Mm.
absolutely love it. It's a shame that you haven't seen it for so long, but
I will make a point of checking this one out. If
oh,
you
dude,
talk so
you know,
highly of it,
maybe you'll
I
think
will
it's a
make a
bag of
point of
shit, but
checking this
you
one.
know, it's like it's you know, I love like Joe Dante movies,
Mm,
you know, like this, like Gremlins, and you've
mm.
got like The Howling is such a great movie,
That's a good
and
one.
The
That's a good one.
Explorers, right? It's another great movie from when you're a kid, you know. Um,
Howling like that proper freaked me out when I was younger.
yeah, just he's such a, and like I say, just steeped in this kind of genre sort of fare. But yeah,
Mm,
man, it's like I say, Halloween sort of style, bringing sort of sinister stuff to the neighborhood, classic like sort of horror sort of look and tropes
yeah,
in you know the house and experiments in the basement and all of this stuff and the look of the Klopeks, and then you've got like I say, just the paranoia. You know, mass hysteria, sort of, you know, delusional thoughts about what's going on next door, all of this sort of stuff, sinister doings. You know, it's loads of fun and I think it's probably aimed at kids, I would imagine ish. You know, it's sort of
yeah,
again, it's Joe Dante sort of straddles the
yeah,
border,
yeah.
I think, between sort of maybe teens and sort of adults,
Mm.
but both can enjoy it, you know. But this is one of my favorite films, dude. Absolutely love it.
Nice. I will check it out. I will try and check it out.
Yeah, have another look.
I don't doubt that it's a good film, and it was just my like shitty childish like expectations of the film were like not met. So I was like, okay.
Oh, it's
I
a
was
banger,
probably
dude.
expecting like monsters and werewolves. I think I was probably expecting a Monster Squad style kind of thing out of
Yeah,
it,
no, it's
and
not that, right?
yeah,
It is very much like just their paranoia, you know, and
mm,
sort of delusional sort of their mindset is the thing, you know. It's
yeah,
just the hysteria is sort of really funny, I think.
nice.
Um, Yeah, just great characters. But that's about it, I think, isn't it, dude?
Yeah. I
That's
did
our
have
sort of list.
a few honorable mentions just to
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
throw in there. Ones that didn't quite make the list, but ones
Just
that I
hit,
still think are very good or very like important gateway
yeah, hit
horrors.
me with
And
those.
the first one, undoubtedly, you would have seen and heard of Poltergeist, the
Yeah,
original
man.
Poltergeist,
Yeah.
1982. Toby Hooper,
Yeah.
writer director of Texas Chainsaw. Some people will sort of like speculate that Spielberg had a very big hand in directing this film.
That is the rumor, isn't it?
Yes, there's a lot of, and is a lot of Spielbergishness in the film,
Mm.
So, but I can't comment either way on who did what, and I think it's going to be one of those Hollywood like legend stories that kind of goes down in history. But Poltergeist basically tells about a family and their little house, which is built on an Indian burial ground, I believe, and their young
Bad
daughter.
idea.
Yeah, always a bad idea. And their young daughter, Carol Ann. You'll never forget her name because it screams so many times throughout this film, and
No.
the resulting two sequels as well. And yeah, she ends up getting kind of sucked through the TV, and it's almost like a Stranger Things kind of vibe. She's trying to sort of like communicate with them through the TV and through the walls, and they bring in this tiny little like spiritualist lady to help them, who's like the cutest little thing you've ever seen in your life. But yeah, it's a really good film. Does have some scary moments. There's a scene with a clown doll in particular that really kind of
Mm.
freaked me out quite a bit when I was younger. And then I'm going to go a little bit more modern with Monster House. Have you seen Monster House?
I've never seen Monster House.
Have you heard of it?
No. No.
You'll probably be quite up your alley. It's kind of 2006 animation, and it's basically about this house, which is actually like a monster hiding in plain
Okay,
sight on
no
a
way.
street, and like it kind of lures kids in with like little like kites and like balls and just kind of like and it's the windows kind of become eyes, and like the door becomes like a mouth.
Oh wow.
And this old man kind of lives there, the kids like every time they go near his lawn, he's coming out and he's like, "Get off my lawn, get out of here," and they all just think he's like some evil old bastard, but he's just trying to protect them from the house.
Oh right.
Because basically his wife kind of died in this house, and she was like, you know, treated really badly all her life, and she kind of turned into this like bitter, kind of hateful kind of person. And like when she died, her spirit kind of, because he built the house for her, and she just kind of infects this house.
Mm.
And the kids kind of become aware that the house is alive, and like they'll catch it like moving or like little bits and pieces. And it's a really cool concept, really pretty cool animation. Nothing too scary. Definitely, most kids would be fine with this one. And
Right.
this is one that I kind of caught during one of my many kids kind of kid watching, when they're watching stuff. And I was like, I kind of sat down to watch it with them, and I was like, this is really cool.
Nice.
I think Steve Buscemi is the only guy I remember who was in it, like voice wise,
Yeah.
but he does a really good job. And then the last one, another animation. This one is from 2009, and this is an animation called Nine, literally
Yeah.
the number nine. Have you ever seen or
Yeah.
heard of that?
I've definitely heard of it and I've seen the sort of character design, but I've never actually
Mm.
sat down and watched the film.
It's terrifying.
Really?
There are bits in that film which like are so not suitable for like young children. Like there's some terrifying elements in that film. It's
Obviously,
basically kind of sorry,
think
go on.
makes me think of a potato sack minion.
Yes, yeah, very
Yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
so. They're kind of like these little potato sack dolls, and like hand stitched, and like it's sort of set in a post-apocalyptic world after like humanity has just been wiped out by these like sentient machines.
Mm,
And this little doll wakes up. He's got like a number nine kind of written on him, and he's trying to explore this world, trying to figure out what's going on. And he finds other dolls with other numbers sort of written on them. And there's like a warrior one who has like a half pair of scissors because they're really tiny, these dolls, He
yeah,
uses it like a sword. And they're kind of just fighting these machines, but the machines are kind of like cannibalized from just like everyday objects, and they're
right.
controlled by this kind of factory off in the distance. And I won't spoil sort of any more of you, but the animation is amazing. The design is just beautiful, as in like beautifully horrific. It's
Yeah.
just it's really disturbing. And I kind of watched it and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is harsh, man. This is really fucking harsh. But yeah, I highly recommend that to any adults who fancy a really kind of cool, slightly disturbing animated film. But yeah, nine. Literally just the
Awesome.
number nine. Pretty sure Elijah Wood does some of the voices in it.
Okay. I'll have to check
But
that out, dude. Yeah, I'll have
you
to have
will
a look at that.
love it. I guarantee you, you will love it.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
How about you, man? What about your near misses?
Yeah, man. So there were a few. So I thought of, I don't know if all of these are going to work, but certainly one thing I thought of was including was the original kind of series of Scooby-Doo.
Oh yes.
I mean, I think that is a real kind of gateway horror classic, right?
Hmm.
Sort of a group of sort of a team of what are they investigators? I don't even know. What kind of
I
the,
think
the
so.
Scooby
Yeah.
Gang basically are sort of
Yeah.
out investigating sort of paranormal sort of doings and activities, and each week they sort of investigating some ghost or some
Yeah.
some sort of ghoul, which turns out to be one of the adults doing some nefarious thing for some
Yeah.
reason or whatever,
It's
and
always one of the adults, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
In the
There's
later series, they did actually like later because there's been so many like iterations of Scooby Doo. So I know in the later ones they did kind of start putting real monsters in.
yeah, oh
But
really, right.
in that best one, the one that you're talking about, the original one, it was
Yeah.
always just like some nefarious adult that would get thwarted by the meddling kids.
That's right. That's right. Which is classic, right? Classic
So
gateway
good.
horror stuff, right? The kids know more than the adults. The kids bring
Yep.
the adults down, right? And they've got to kind of overcome their fears. Scooby is always sort of, scared and whatnot.
Hmm.
He's got to sort of overcome his fears. The other one I thought of, which might be would have been good, was another Joe Dante thing, man, which is Erie, Indiana. So I don't think it
I
was
remember
written,
that.
but he certainly directed, certainly the first episode. I'm not sure exactly how much, but definitely a heavy involvement.
Mm.
And so that was a
I used to love
series.
that show. Yeah.
Yeah, man, brilliant, right? I actually went back and watched the first episode again
Mm.
fairly recently, just because I thought of it for this. And basically, the idea is that they've, this sort of family have moved to this town Erie, which is in Indiana,
Hmm.
from New York, and they've sort of settled there. And it's like a suburbia sort of deal. It's white picket fences and everything, and everything's prim and proper, and all of these. But there's weird, this town, there's lots of weird stuff happening, which only
Yeah.
he can kind of see, right? And him and his little
Hmm.
buddy kind of go and investigate all of these things. And the first episode, which I rewatched, was great. Was their sort of neighbor, one of the neighbors comes over to sort of welcome them to the neighborhood, and she sort of starts selling kind of almost like Tupperware sort of
Mm.
stuff. And she's got these two weird kids who slip, the protagonist kind of a note which says, check out the yearbook 1964 or something like this. So he goes and checks it out with his neighbor buddy and sees these two kids there from
Mm.
1964. So, and she's basically kind of preserving humans in this kind of magical Tupperware stuff that she's
Oh
kind of
my.
selling, right? But
Yeah.
again, this is kind of like Scooby-Doo in that you've
Mm.
got these kind of kids investigating all of these paranormal kind of goings on, and sort of solving cases and all of that sort of stuff, all happening in this town of Erie, Indiana. Classic stuff. Again, like
Nice.
Joe Dante doing a great job. Awesome theme music, really accessible for kids and really sort of aimed at kids.
Mm.
So that was one. I thought about putting maybe Teen Wolf on here. Do you remember
Oh
Teen
yeah.
Wolf, Michael J.
Yeah, yeah,
Fox?
yeah. I remember Teen Wolf.
Just for
I
the
liked it, but I was always a bit disappointed about the lack of Wolf
Yeah, well,
in
there is a
Teen Wolf.
little bit of a well, there's a fair bit of wolf in there, and some of it's kind of could be quite spooky. The
Mm.
transformation of
Yeah,
into the wolf is quite a sort of scary scene, but it's definitely right like werewolf movie aimed at
yeah.
kids. And the classic decides to play the game as himself at the end, right?
Mm.
And sort of triumphs. Doesn't want to be the wolf. Which is another, I mean, this is another 80s movie that watch loads, right? Last one I thought of was The Witches. Don't know if you've ever
Oh
seen The
yeah,
Witches.
definitely. Yeah. You want about the new one or the Angelica Houston
No,
one?
well, I was thinking the Angelica Houston one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So I think
he was
that's
terrifying in that film.
yeah, just she is so good in this movie. I mean, if
Mm,
you've never seen The Witches, go back and watch it. Obviously based on the Roald Dahl book. I think it's
yeah.
around 90, maybe 1990, 89, 90. And I think this is Nicholas Roeg, I think is his film, maybe. But yeah, I mean, essentially, this one is there's a sort of a young kid, and I think his grandmother. He's sort of recently kind of orphaned,
Yeah.
and they go to this sort of seaside hotel. And I always remember this was shot in and around a place I used to go to in Cornwall, and you
Oh,
could sort of
cool.
see the hotel
Yeah.
up on the cliff. Anyway, they go to this sort of hotel to kind of recuperate or whatnot. Grandmother, I think, is sort of got some sort of illness. But also staying at the hotel is this kind of group, this group of witches
Yeah.
and they've sort of gathered there to, they've got some sort of crazy plot or something to rid England of all the children.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. And the sort of the kid, sort of has to try and you know stop this happening, obviously.
Mm,
But the thing I remember about this one was the obviously Angelica's Houston's sort of performance as the sort of the Grand Witch is
mm.
absolutely fantastic. But there's some really like disturbing makeup in
Oh
this.
God, yeah.
Like the makeup
Yeah.
design in this movie is something else, dude. And it's, once the witches kind of turn full witcher poo,
Mm.
it's some pretty disturbing visuals. They're sort of turning into mice and they've got crazy feet and just bald heads
Yeah,
and
because they don't have toes or something.
yeah, no
Is it something like
toes.
that? They don't
It's
have toes or something
some
like that.
really spooky stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a really cool movie, man. Loads of fun.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I'd sort of recommend that one as well. Certainly going to scare younger kids, I would
Oh
imagine
yeah,
that one.
definitely. I always did kind of wonder how like the Grand High Witch's nose fit under her mask because her nose
Yeah,
is like about nearly a foot long, and like she just
a very
wears
long
like a
nose.
normal Angelica Houston like face mask. I'm like, does she kind
Yeah.
of roll it up, or does she kind of like hook it in her mouth, or like what? Is she
Wow,
like tape it to the side of her face? Where does it go?
I think that's just magic,
Ah, yeah,
I think
silly me, magic.
that's what it is, right? Yeah, so there we are. That's our
Mm,
sort of gateway horrors. I think
brilliant.
again, just our top fives, isn't it, Lee? Or our
Yep.
sort of
Yep.
and our honorable mentions, but there's plenty others out there. Be great to hear from people if you have any kind of suggestions about what you
Absolutely. Yep.
think would be a gateway horror. Maybe it's something we can cover. A few of these have been covered on the podcast already, haven't they? So worth going
Yep.
back and having a listen to those episodes if you fancy it. We do a deep dive on some of these, and I'm sure we'll do a deep dive on some of these others as well at some point in the future, Lee.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's about it. So if you enjoyed the podcast, please hit like, please subscribe. It is free to do so. And if you're feeling, if you're really enjoying things, then you can leave us a hugely, hopefully hugely positive review on your podcatcher of choice because it really, really helps us find new people. Do check out our
Absolutely.
socials as well. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky, and we can be reached there. We also publish to YouTube, so you can listen there if that's more efficient for you. No visuals currently, but plenty of audio goodness there. Feel free to drop us a line with any thoughts on our website. That's www.scripttoscreenpodcast.com. We do always love hearing from you guys. And we have a lot more content there now, don't we, Lee? So we have script
Absolutely. Yep.
samples, we have scarology graphs, all sorts of stuff going on there. Much, much content. That's it from us. We'll be back soon with the opening of season 3, won't we, Lee?
Hell yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah, man. But until then, do take care.
And keep on writing those scares.